Okay, now I have populated all of my data into the data table. And I should mention that my data is for 4-sided dice. You need to use 6-sided dice. So my data is going to look different than yours and isn't really going to be all that useful to you. But all the techniques that I'm going over how to do everything still applies. So the first thing, we're going to be making some graphs, and the roles are going to be our x-axis. So just for ease of making the charts, it really helps to go ahead and copy this first column over here. That's going to make things a lot easier when it's time to make the graphs. Now, the next thing we're going to want to do here is we need the class data. So first let me label this. This is going to be the class data. And that's where we're combining, in this case, I'm going to combine my data with the instructor's data. Okay. This first row is going to be the first column, and this column is going to be R. Okay, so how do we do this? So you can see here I am on cell G3, and I want to hit equals, and then I'm going to add the in for the instructor's data and for my data together, so that's 400 plus 100. Now I could literally do that, of course. 400 plus 100 is easy enough to do, but we're going to use the spreadsheet to do all the work for us. So I'm going to just touch this cell. So now it says equals B3. And then I'm going to say plus. Then I'm going to touch the other cell. Click on that. There we go. D3. Okay. And I'm going to hit return. And there you go. You can see it did it for me. And the reason why I want to do this, and why I strongly encourage you to do that, is now I can just copy. You see that little blue box in the bottom right corner? If I just oops, let me try that again. My hand was a little shaky there. If I just touch it and bring that down, you can see these little dotted lines. If I bring it all the way down, there. It repeated that operation, but for each row. So it went down to the next row, which had a 300 for the instructor's data. The in was 300. For my data was 74. 300 plus 74 is 374. See, 374, 374. Then it took 220 plus 48, 268. Great. And now I can get it to do the same thing for the R data. If I just touch that blue box again, go across, great. And I'll just go down. I'm going to be recopying on the left side, but that's fine. There we go. So it did all the work for me. I don't have to add everything up or type all these values in. It's done it for me. Great. I'm done with that. Now we want to make the graphs. And first you want to graph your data. And so to do that, you want to highlight. You can see what I did. I clicked on the in, and I've highlighted all the way down, going down the roles, all the way there. So this is what you want to highlight. And then you want to go insert. You want to insert chart. You can see that right down here. Okay. And probably, much like mine, yours is going to come up with the entirely wrong kind of chart. We don't want a column chart. The kind of chart we want is a scatter plot. So I clicked right here on chart type, got the drop down menu, keep going until you see scatter. I'm going to click on there's two options there. We want the left one. So I'll click on the left one. There we go. Okay. Now we're still not done. This isn't correct. And the reason why it's not correct is we have the wrong x-axis. See how it is said the x-axis is in? No, our x-axis is roll. So there we go, the roll number, there we go. Okay, still not done though, because now the series, we've got R and roll. I don't want to graph roll versus roll. I want in versus roll and R versus roll. So we've already got R, but under series, the second one is wrong. So roll, I don't want roll, I want in. There we go. Okay, great. Now we want to get trend lines. So I'm going to go click on Customize up here at the top. Under Chart Editor, it says Setup and Customize. I'm going to click on Customize. Go down to where it says Series. Click on Series. And I'm going to scroll down until I get these choices, error bars, data tables, trend line. Do the trend line. Okay. And the type, I don't want linear. I want exponential. So I choose exponential. Notice that it's doing it for both the blue and the red dots here. We've got both trend lines, which is what we want. And then scroll down just a little bit more, and you'll see it says label. We want to use the equation. And there we go. We have got what we need. We've got our equation here for N and R. We've got the exponential decay. And notice that's exactly what it is, exponential decay. It says for R, 31.5 times e to the negative 0.246x. So the negative 0.246x, that's all in the power of the e. And this is lowercase e, so this is the exponential function that we're talking about. And for n, 95.9 times e, which is raised to the negative 0.279 times x power. Let's go back to the lab. Here under data analysis, you can see there are two tables, the blue one and the green one. The blue one is analysis of your data, and the first row says trendline equation. So going back to the Google Sheet to get the trendline equation for in versus roles, I need the first number, which is 95.9. Okay, so in here, 95.9. Okay. Then I need to know to what power e is raised to. Okay, going back to the Google Sheet, it's raised to the negative 0.279 times x power. Okay. Well, the x is already there next to the answer box, so I just need to put in negative 0.279. Now I need to get the same information for R versus roles. Okay, so R, the first number is 31.5. And E is raised to the negative 0.246 times X. So negative 0.246 times X. There we go. So I've got all the data entered for the trendline equation. Now, the rest of the data, how do I get the rest of the data? Well, you just compare it to the exponential decay laws for radioactive decay. So, for example, the decay constant is just whatever is multiplied by time. Well, in our graph, time is essentially represented by the number of roles. So x, here in the trendline equation, x is the time, and whatever's multiplied by it, the negative of what's multiplied by it is the decay constant. So in my case, the decay constant is just 0.279 for in versus roles. Over here, it's 0.246. Now this is based on the data that I got. Ideally, these would be the exact same because it's the exact same situation. It's the exact same die. So ideally they'd be the same, but they're not going to be. That's okay. In naught, I can get in naught because that's whatever's multiplied by the exponential for the in versus roles. So for me, that's just 95.9. Okay. And I can also get R naught right off the bat because, again, that's the number that's multiplied by the exponential. So that's 31.5. Okay, for the rest of this, you'll have to go through, that's all you can get straight from the trendline equation. The rest of it, you'll have to go through and do the calculations using the formulas. And of course, for the average, the column there for the averages, you're just taking the two values you got, because ideally they're the same, just find their average. Okay? And then you have to go through and do all of this again for the analysis of the class data. So for the class data, that means, going back to the Google Sheet, all right, so let me move this. Move that down there. Need to make another chart for the class data. There we go. All right, so this time, going to highlight all of this. Okay. And when I go to insert a chart, again, it's got the wrong kind of chart. I need to choose what kind of chart I've got. I've got a scatter plot. Okay. But this time it's going to have the x-axis correct, roll. It's going to have my series correct. So now I just need to go down, go over to customize, choose series once again. I'm going to scroll down, choose trend line, and choose it to be exponential. and then use the equation. And then I'm going to put these values, again, populate these into my analysis of class data table. Okay, so the table for the analysis of class data, I'm going to use those values to populate them in. One thing I want to point out here real quick while I'm thinking about it is the N naught, the initial number of dice. Notice for your data, N naught was, excuse me there, for your data, for my data I should say, N naught was 95.9. I know I started with 100, but I'm going off of the trend line. But you can see 95.9, that's pretty close, not far off from 100. In fact, it's only, what, 4.1% off. Okay. So over here, for this one, my N naught is going to be 506. That's even, percentage-wise, that's even closer. That's a little over 1%, 1.2% off, I think. So already it looks like I'm getting better results when I'm using the class data because, again, the exponential fit is going to be better with a larger sample size, with more dice. And it's the same if we're talking about radioactive decay of a substance. The more molecules, the more atoms, that we have, the better the fit is going to be, the better our model is going to match reality. But this is how you do the lab. As you go through, you get the data, you get your Google Sheet to make the graphs and do the trend lines, okay? You use that, put those into the tables, do the calculations to get the mean life, the half-life, to get N naught from the R data and to get R naught from the N data, get your averages, okay? And then you're going to have a few questions down here in the theory section that you need to answer. But that's it, so have some fun.